think you should.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Whoscussion. We're going into part B. Again, guys, I need to apologize that part A is so solemn and sad and depressing. It's just unfortunately how the cookie crumbled. Again, like we always say here at Whoscussion, we don't plan things to be the way that they are. But this just sort of, it's just been a downward slope, really. But we're going to be carrying on with our adventures through the final Lucy Miller season with the Four Doctors, followed up with Prisoner of the Sun, and doing our second to last short trip for the channel, the Shrine of Sorrows. So I'm going to take us through the Four Doctors. The Four Doctors starts off with 5. I hadn't actually seen the cover for this, which I thought was really peculiar when I started watching it. For some reason, VLC, when I first started listening to it, actually didn't display the cover. And then when I listened to it, because I listened to it halfway and then had to go off and do something, and when I listened to the last half, it showed me the cover. And I was like, oh, I'm actually glad that it didn't the first time. Because when I heard Peter Davison's voice, I was like, I thought this might be like the Four Doctors, but like, you know, it's like the Doctor meets like a fake Doctor, like Jackson Lake, you know, like the episode The Next Doctor. So when it was the Four Doctors, I was like, of course Big Finish did that.
Yeah, of course it did.
And 5's been all 5e. The thing that I find so surprising about Peter Davison is his ability to sound like he's in his 20s again when he does Big Finish.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like I've been at a couple of cons and I've seen him in a live performance, and he definitely has aged in his voice, but just like he's immediately 28 again. Like it's amazing. I love how he does that, and it's all like being breathy and zipping around. And even though it's an audio production, the actors give that physicality to their voice that allows it. Like you can see 5 zipping around and doing stuff, maybe even throwing some shrinking poison on people. You know how it is, as 5 does. And he's at a facility and he's like, look, my TARDIS said that there's a huge chronon leak here and I'm here to fix it because I'm 5 and that's just what I do. And I'm thinking, where are his companions?
He doesn't need them.
He doesn't need them. But it's like, I think there must be a Big Finish story where he must have dropped them off somewhere. Because I know Big Finish does that, where the Doctor's like, I'll come back for you guys. Like with the running joke that is Samson and Gemma.
Man, I wonder where they are right now.
Oh, they did.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, they are dead now. I forgot about that.
They sure are. One was converted into a Dalek and the other one was just dead. So he's all like, hey, I'm trying to help you guys out. And then you hear the TARDIS dematerialization sound. And one of the scientists that was with 5, she's darted out for a bit. And she sees, she's like, oh, what? Another vessels are materializing? So she goes to check out, and 8 walks out of the TARDIS, and he's like, oh, hey, did you guys know there's a chronon leak here? I'm here to help you out. And she goes, yes, the Doctor's here. And he's like, the Doctor's here? He goes, hey, you look really familiar. Oh, you remind me of this lady I knew. And he says her name. Her name was, hold on a second, I'll just bring that up. Her name was Kalinda. He's like, you remind me of this Professor Kalinda. She's like, I am Professor Kalinda. He's like, oh, this is not good. And he was like, hey, and he's like, hey, can you patch me through to the security facility? And she's like, oh, all right. Oh, no, sorry. So before that happens, her brother turns up, and instantly, Big Finish in like 3 sentences are able to give us the entire back history of these siblings. The brother loves his sister, but she thinks he's a bit of a butthead. And you get that immediately, without any cussing, without any demoralizing language. It's just the delivery of the lines and how they're pieced together. It's just, wow, Big Finish. Wow. You managed to develop characters in 3 sentences more than an entire season of Torchwood. That's crazy to me. So he's all like, hey, do you want to hug me? She's like, no. And then she follows protocol and sticks to the strict sort of, I suppose, guidelines of their peoples. And he's all like, oh, okay. And he feels a little bit uncomfortable. But he turns up, and the Doctor notices all the shields are going down. And he's like, 8. I'm gonna have to use numbers here, sorry guys. 8 notices all the shields go down. And he's like, oh, I know what's happening. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, I need to talk to the other doctor. So she gets patched through to 5, and 5's like, hey, what's going on out there? And 8's all like, hey, I'm a Time Lord agent. And he's like, I'm trying to remember what I said to myself. And it's great because, like, so much time has passed. We know he's spent 600 years on Orbis. There's been hundreds of years between him and 5, additional to the Orbis era of his life. And so he's like, what did I say? And he's trying desperately to remember, which is great that he can remember these lines, but not Charlie. Sorry.
He can remember these lines because the web of time requires him to remember.
Yeah, bloody web of time, mate.
The web of time does not need him to remember Charlie.
No, because Charlie was actually a deviation from the web. I know. All right, I know. But I loved Charlie so much, and just Anyway, so he remembers these stupid lines that he says to himself, and 5's all like, "All right, okay," and then he's like, oh, he won't listen to me. He thinks I'm just some, like, airy-fairy high council member. And 5 says on him, like, just, what a hypocritical thing for him to say. He goes, I should tell him off about all his meddling in the web of time. And I'm like, whatever, 5. You do heaps of meddling. Whatever.
What are you doing right now?
Yeah, exactly. You might not be throwing some poison around, but your companion literally is the reason the dinosaurs went extinct. Hashtag meteorite Adric. So the Doctor gets the Professor Kalinda to relay some messages to 5, and he's all like, hey, all right, who are you with? And he's like, I'm with another professor, and I'm with Colonel Ulrich. And then 8's like, oh, okay. All right, I need you to leave Colonel Ulrich behind. And then Kalinda's like, but he's my brother. And I like that, because even though she's been a butt to him, she's like, he's still family, man. And, like, 8's like, no, don't worry, I'm saving him. And Ulrich, it turns out, has betrayed his own people, who are this biomechanoid race. So they're genetically cybernetic. I've always loved that idea. There's a race like that in the Marvel comic universe. I don't know why I've always liked that. In a way, I suppose the Cybertronians are as well, since they have babies and stuff. But these guys are, like, very much still flesh and biomechanical. I suppose, in a way, like a Borg that doesn't need to be assimilated. Would there be for analysis? I mean,
okay. I don't know if there's a good, like, pop culture reference for this, but I've written something that is very similar to this. They call that the Kyber, which is the definition of human and development, which is basically that we modify ourselves so much that to continue that, to keep that as a genetic thing, effectively just add in additional genetic information that programs machines as well. So it's definitely a possibility for that to happen. It makes sense if you wanted to keep programming, but have it be a genetic exchange instead of it being actual, like, typing programming.
Yeah.
So it works. It makes sense.
Cool.
And it's as we find out later, it is because they steal some stuff. So
yeah, they sure do. They sure do. So Ulrich, he's trying to find a way to keep his people safe, but he's doing it in possibly the worst way. And I like this because Ulrich is he's done something pretty monumentally stupid, but I see where he's coming from. And Big Finish have done this, like, a lot for me. It's like the villain who became immortal and he hated the Doctor, and he was powered by the Nymons. Like, that guy, I saw where he was coming from. But then 8 gets him to kill himself. That's so good. I love you. I love you, Big Finish. I'm going to close the time loop by getting him to kill himself so he never existed. Let's go, guys. So Ulrich's like, hey, I'm going to deal with the Daleks. They're just going to pick up this thing, and then they'll just go. And then 5's like, that isn't going to happen. No, the Dalek, he goes, deals with is alien to the Daleks as, well, you. and then we have this Dalek come in, the Dalek Prime, and it goes, you, Colonel Ulrich, you will give us the thing. And then 5's like, what? And then time starts getting all distorted, and then we jump to Michael Faraday.
Yeah.
To Professor Michael Faraday, who we know for the Faraday experiments. And he's all like, thank you for listening to my lecture. And then one of his fans turns up and says like, oh, Professor Faraday, won't you come around for supper? And he's like, no, my wife's out of town and I want to hang out with my friend who's hashtag going to teach me about this cool thing. So I'm going to go now. And so he goes off and then Seven turns up and Seven's like, oh no, sorry. Colonel Ulrich turns up first and he's all like, it's a Dalek. And Michael Faraday's like, who are you, sir? He's like, who am I? And then he puts out his hand. And Michael Faraday goes, there's something wrong with your hand. Because they've got this, this finger that's designed to be able to, again, they are born this way, so they've changed the genetic makeup in a fashion that allows them to have one of their fingers is designed to interface with all of their technology. And he's like, oh, you guys don't understand protocol? How primitive, and like turns up his nose. And this story really is Colonel Ulrich's story. Even though it's called The Four Doctors, I think that was really sort of Big Finish's way to maybe throw you off the scent of how the narrative was going to play out. I think that was smart. And a great use of the story itself. It reminds me a bit of Light at the End, the story that had the Doctors 4 through to 8, where it was more about that family than it was the Doctors. So I think Big Finish really sort of find this balance of how to make multi-Doctor stories work without crapping over the history of the show. I don't know who was going after there.
I wonder.
And so he's like, he goes, what do you think this thing is? And then Faraday goes, oh, it's some sort of a capacitor, a battery, like an old colleague of mine built. He goes, that's not a capacitor, that's a Dalek. And he's like, I don't know that word. And then
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what he's talking about. And then the Seventh Doctor walks in and he goes, Colonel Ulrich. And I was like, who the hell are you? He's like, I'm the Doctor. He's like, another one? I just met 2 other of you guys. He goes, don't you remember what I told you on the battlefield? And he's like, no. And it's great because in the story, he hasn't told him anything on the battlefield.
Yeah, he hasn't got there yet.
Yeah.
But he knows that he hasn't got there yet. But Seven doesn't care. He's just saying things.
He's just saying things. He's like, I told you to be a lot more respectful, and you're just being such a butt. And I'm just like, he hasn't learned the lesson yet, Seven. And as Gareth Kelly says, he clearly knows he hasn't learned that lesson yet. Yeah. And then the Daleks come through the time corridor, and Seven's like, why? So he starts a fire to sort of like get the Daleks away from them. And then all this time distortion happens, and Ulrich and the Dalek Prime disappear, but the other Daleks stay behind. And this is a sort of a running theme where Daleks get left behind, but Ulrich and Prime keep jumping all over the show. And his menagerie of Daleks just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And they end up on the Dalek Prime and Colonel Ulrich. They end up very separated, and Ulrich ends up joining a war in his people's past, and it's outlined that he's been fighting it for a pretty long time. So like I like that because Ulrich, after being tortured by the Daleks, so the Daleks are like, you don't make any sense, we know you're a Jaredin, but you're also not a Jaredin. What the hell's going on here? So they're probing him and trying to get information out of him. And he hears Six in the next room. And Six is all like, hey, Colonel Ulrich. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, hey, how are you? How you holding up, kiddo? You know, like real, like, you know, but like sort of bumping him on the chin. And he's like, hey, look, I'm gonna rally your spirits and get you, get that fighting spirit back of yours. And he describes this beautiful landscape to him. And just, there was something about Colin Baker's delivery in this where, like, I want a romance novel read by this guy, man. Like, I would buy that on Audible. I was like, Colin Baker, you got me all hot and flustered over here. Oh my god. And so, like, the guy, he's like, yeah, I will do it. And then he's like, okay, good. And another, the Daleks come back in and they're like, hey, explain this. And then he's like, explain what? And Dalek Prime, so he's like, Dalek Prime. And the Dalek goes, there isn't a Dalek Prime. What is he, eh? Tell us. Hey, You're trying to trick the Daleks, aren't you? He's like, no, he's a Dalek. They're like, nah, get out of town, bucko. He's not a Dalek. And the Daleks are just like really, really grumpy. And the Dalek Prime's like, I'm going to prove I'm a Dalek. So it connects to one of their computers and he's like, ha ha ha, look at this. Look at how more Dalek I am than you guys. And they're like, whoa, this guy's too Dalek. So they all start praising him. And I love that with the Daleks. They're like, this guy's even more superior than my dad was. And it's just like, they're getting like real hype. And he's like, hey guys, before you kill me, I know where the doctor is. I'll go grab him. And so they're like, okay, cool. And they're too busy having a party, I guess, to go with him. Because like, yeah, Dalek Prime. Having a rave party. A disco ball that looks like Davros's Emperor ship turns up. Young man. And then they all, so these Robo-Man and, I like Robo-Men. I know they got replaced by replicants, which actually makes way more sense, but I miss Robo-Men. You will come with me. So the Robo-Man and Colonel Ulrich, they're like, ha-ha! And bust into this empty door. And they're like, and the Robo-Man's like, he isn't even here. You totally tricked us. I'm gonna take you to the Daleks to get exterminated. And then the doctor's like, well, he didn't actually. He's like, oh, here's a shortwave radio. He's like, hey, you need to put your finger into that Robo-Man's helmet. And he's like, yeah! And the Robo-Man's like, I obey. And he's like, oh, that's real cool. And so he's like, and the doctor's like, hey, come to the roof and come chill with me. And he's like, oh, okay. So he goes up to the roof, and he goes up to the roof with the Robo-Man. And the Sixth Doctor says, look down at the battlefield. He goes, from here, you can't even see who's who's a Dalek and who's a Jaredin. And he goes, yeah. Your grandfather, he fought out there. And he's like, no, my grandfather hid in his house, and he hid here like a coward. He's like, no. He goes, I want you to have a look at that Robo-Man's face. Like, have a long, hard look at that Robo-Man. And he's like, oh, that's my granddad. And he's like, yeah, that's your granddad, man. And he's like, whoa, I thought my granddad was a coward. He's like, nah, he just got converted. Like, that's actually what happened. So, yeah. I think, he's like, and this is like Web of Time stuff. He's like, I want you to send your grandfather out into the battlefield and like, go out there and be the hero of his people. So he sends him out and he's like, well, what's this going to achieve? And he's like, your guy's biomechanical DNA is because you converted Dalek tech. And because of what you've just done to your grandfather, that's going to make it way easier for your people. And he has like sort of an existential crisis. And he's like, I'm so sorry, Doctor. The Doctor's like, why? And he's like, I betrayed you. And he's like, of course you did. The Dalek Prime turns up. He's like, ha, I can kill you now, Doctor. And the Doctor's like, nah, a time corridor. And the Dalek Prime's like, wait, what? Oh! So the Dalek Prime and Ulrich fall through the time corridor again. I absolutely love it. It's like, Prime's like, ha, ha, ha. And if he had a mustache, he'd be twirling it with his plunger hand. Like, ha, ha, ha. I'm going to kill you, Six. And Six is just like, nah, time corridor. Oh, it was like a Team 4-star moment. Like, Kyle, what? And so they fall through the time storm and they end up at the beginning of the loop again. And Ulrich and Dalek Prime is standing in front of Five. Five's like, what? And Colonel Ulrich's like, why am I here twice? And Five's like, I don't know. So the older Colonel Ulrich, the one who's all war-torn and been through all this bullcrap, he knocks himself out. And I like that because like it's him sort of coming to this realization that not only does he have to protect the web of time, because he knows he's going to be, time hopping, but also he's ashamed of his past failures. And I think that's, again, really good character development. Better than an entire season of torture. What? This blows my mind. And so Five's like, oh, and then they have the conversation with Eight. Eight's like, hey, leave the Ulrich behind. And he's like, oh, okay. And then Ulrich kind of goes out a champ, to be honest. He's like, he opens up the secret facility, and because of his conversation with Six, he knows what their ultimate weapon is. He opens up the door, and his grandfather's like a super Dalek now. And he's like, Granddad, exterminate them. And then like he dies. He's like, I don't even care, bruh. It's my granddad's epic. And it's like, I died knowing that my family legacy is actually that of awesomeness. So I don't even care anymore. And then he dies. And Five's like, well, let's go. And Eight's like, Well, I've saved the day. Pretty happy about myself. But I need to go hop into my TARDIS and create a time bomb and kill all these Daleks. Catch you later! So he hops into his TARDIS and kills all the Daleks. And he's like, this is great. And then 5, 6, and 7 are there. And he's like, why are you guys here? And 6 is like, why does the TARDIS look like this? This is dumb. And it's like, and I just love that it's like 6. And 7's like, so I guess you're the latest Doctor then? Because I don't remember you. And he's like, yeah, I am. And 5's like, well, I want to go back to my own time. I'm not a huge fan of being surrounded by myself. So bye. And 6 is like, yeah, let's not make this a common occurrence, please. I rather would just hang out by myself. And then 7's all like, hope you're not ashamed of me. Bye. And 8's just like, all right. And that is the 4 Doctors. I'll grab Harriet Scully's thoughts before we move on to Prisoner of the Sun.
All right. Yeah, so this is really great. I love the time hopping and the in and outs of the Doctor's time stream and him like getting ripped through it. And yeah, the character development that he goes through just is so good. I don't like it's kind of sad now that I think about it. That Big Finish is so much better. Like it's just it makes me sad of how good it is. Like
I agree.
Considering the kind of badness that we have to put up with every week. So it's just this one is fantastic, and it really does show that the other Doctors could fill back in easily enough. Just let them have an animated show.
Yeah. Absolutely. Animated Big Finish would be fantastic, man.
Absolutely.
And then you wouldn't, like, even if you wanted to do an anniversary special where all the Doctors come back, you know, you could have a David Bradley 1, and I don't think people would, like, scoff at that. You could have David be 2, because it's animated. Who even cares? You know? As long as the live actors come back.
Yeah, there's plenty of fantastic voice actors that can imitate these characters.
Yeah.
You know? And even having David Bradley come back, obviously, because we've now canified as a first Doctor as well. He can come back and do the voice, so it would be.
I'd love it. Animate Big Finish. That should be a movement. If we had a big enough YouTube channel, I'd make it a movement, actually. If we ever hit that
hashtag.
Yeah, Animate Big Finish. I'd so do that. If we had like 1 million subs, that would be like a thing that I just like pinned to the top of every video. So outside of that, anything else? Any story beats you think really worked out well, or?
Yeah, I like the voice of the lady scientist.
Yeah,
I like that. It was pretty good. There's a lot of the 8th Doctor's reaction to his other selves is fantastic. He's just like, oh my god, you guys, I'm just embarrassed to be around you. The fact that these Doctors haven't got to do this on screen is so depressing, because they have a fantastic dynamic because of the way that they are designed, and the way that the characters that they are means that they have this thing about each other. It's, there's more to them than the fact that they are just the same person, because they're not. They're different characteristics because of the regeneration that happens. And I've said this before in other multiple Doctor stories, is that there's an unparalleled dynamic there. But when it comes to having 8, 7, 6, and 5, they're so different to each other because of the elements that happened for them. And the changes that went through just in the corporation that they're part of, just shows such difference that it means that having them come back and play those characters, there's so many character elements that you can play on there, and it's so depressing that they haven't done it properly yet.
Yeah, and BBC have an animation arm. They've done animated Doctor Who specials, and even in the live screen stuff, the live action stuff, they've given canonical reasons as to why they're old. Tom Baker turns up, and he's like now nearly 90, right? He doesn't look anything like he did when he was the Doctor.
Don't even give any explanation as to why.
Exactly. And BBC had to go ahead and BBC went ahead and I'm really, really proud of BBC here. they went and created a reason why. It's actually K9. So in the new version of Shada that's been released, K9 short circuits the TARDIS console and makes the Fourth Doctor old.
Yeah.
And also, if we remember in Leisure Hive, the Fourth Doctor was made old as well. But with that, they gave a reason why the Curator happens. And I was like, if BBC is willing to go out of their way to not only reanimate a lost story, but to also help it keep the continuity strong, then how in the shit have they not brought back the old Doctors? Like, the 60th is coming up. A lot of these actors won't be with us much longer. You know, I know that's sad to say, but unfortunately, time kills us all. So please put them in the 60th. David Tennant has already signed on for the 60th.
Yeah.
So
time is the ruler of all men.
Yeah, exactly. Well. Exactly. You know?
This is literally something that was said in the story. So.
Yeah.
You know?
So just make it happen. And I reckon BBC will. I honestly think BBC will.
Yeah.
Especially since they're pushing Big Finish hard these days. Like Big Finish, they're working Big Finish like a sweatshop, man. Like Big Finish are pumping out stories because BBC's like, we want this. And Big Finish is like, remember when you guys didn't? And they're like, yeah. We do remember that. Anything else before we wrap this up and move on to Prison of the Sun?
No, just listen to it. Just do it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'd say just listen to it. It's really good. And I know there's like
I think it's like you don't even need any of the other stuff. Like it can just fit in anywhere because it's just the 8th Doctor. And it doesn't have a companion.
It doesn't have a companion, and none of them have companions, and they don't talk about where the companions are. And I think that works really, really well.
It means so it means that this can happen in anybody's timeline. It doesn't matter.
And that's why this episode was actually released as a subscriber special and not part of their main range because it just fits literally anywhere. Well, with that, guys, we're going to jump into Prisoner of the Sun. Harry's going to take us away.
All right. So this is a very interesting one, actually. So it takes place a little further. But you don't really have a good sense of when it happens. It's obviously after he's dropped off Lucy again. But it starts off with a couple of people trying to get into a room. So they're lady voice actors. We find out later that they're like living metal people. I'm kind of imagining like Terminator 2, but just like all metal, especially considering the artwork for this thing.
Yeah, anyway, I agree.
But basically, they're trying to get into a room. It turns out that they've got the Doctor and his assistants trying to kill him, and I'm like, all right, this is a good start. And it's also got Lucy Miller's voice, which is pretty funny. But anyway, you find out that that's actually an android the Doctor has assigned her voice to, and he's basically been given
so messed up,
assistance
man.
after assistance
because he gives them not only her voice but her personality.
Yeah,
it's really messed up.
Well, he's not had a companion since that point. So the only person that's really, especially after Orbis as well, he hasn't really had anybody else to fill in his mind. So obviously he goes to Lucy, which makes sense. But yeah, he's had a couple of assistants that have been these robots, and this last one tried to kill him. At least that's what he says. And he's setting up a new one, gives it Lucy's voice and her personality and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, basically she is our entrance into the story as he explains to her everything that's going on for plot reasons. It's very well handled, way better handled than Torchwood. So anyway, so he's basically explaining that he's been come to the system that has been taken over by a conglomerate, basically, who early on they took over it after it was like a feudal state where everyone just sort of ruled everyone. They took over, and then they didn't want to lose that power, so they became a totalitarian. Wanted to help the rebels because obviously he doesn't like
totalitarianism.
Yeah, and that works out for him. So as much as it turns out that this organization tried to turn a sun into a weapon, didn't work quite so well for them. once they capture the Doctor, they realize that he could help them stop this sun from killing everybody in its system, basically. Because, of course, he's a solar engineer. Of course, he can sort that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, at least he.
That from the Sixth Doctor Zero.
Yeah, but he kind of also failed, so. You know, and sun. Anyway, basically, he's inside the sun. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that he's not really like in the middle of the sun, considering the kind of temperatures and gravitational stuff that would be going on in there. I'd say that he is on an array. There's a lot less.
I think that makes a lot more sense.
And is operating a series of nodes that operate outside of the sun from this location. Not sure exactly why, but basically the idea is that he's imprisoned there. So I guess that's probably also part of the prisoning thing, is that they've submerged one of these nodes into that to keep him sealed there as well. But obviously he dictates to the robot that, or to the Lucy bot, that he's called Deborah.
No, Daphne.
Daphne, that's the one.
Yeah.
So he's called Lucy Daphne. Anyway. He's there by choice. He's been able to leave at any time. The only reason that he doesn't is because he's stopping this sun weapon that they've had from killing the system that the sun is in, and explains away all the stuff that basically he's using shielding and stuff to stop events that are happening in there. It's not really exactly explained as to what this sort of weapon is and how it exactly interacts with the sun, but obviously I imagine that's because they're probably not really going into too much detail, so people don't try to build a sun weapon. But anyway, so he explains all of this stuff. We get some interaction with the metal people. I can't remember their names. Who are basically his captors.
They were Mercurials.
Yeah, something like that. And they're basically like mercenaries that go for the highest bidder, and they're basically looking after them because they're being paid well. And they're just not. They're like really standoffish and just sort of prisoner guard sort of deal, but like in a nice way. Like they've gotten to know each other. But on board, obviously, it seems that they've come to rescue the Doctor. There's some interesting stuff happening with that. So the two of them, a male and a female, they managed to get through the Mercurials. And the lady manages to get close to the Doctor, and she tries to kill him. And we're sort of just like, okay, but interesting. There's a bit of a firefight. Yep.
No, I just love that the fellow that's with her is like, why are you trying to kill him?
Yeah, it's manages to capture her, stopping her from killing him. Obviously, she ties him up. He ties her up, and locks her in a room. He locks him and her in a room. And the prison guards are like, "Hey, why can't I open this door?" It's like, because I stopped you from getting into this door. I told you I had control over this thing. I was only here by choice. And she's like, okay. Well, I'm gonna go interrogate the dude then. And he's like, all right, sweet. So the Doctor tries to figure out what's going on. Basically, the rebels have decided that they don't want to. Well, some of the rebels have decided that they don't want to bring the Doctor back, just in case he can't live up to his reputation. Because obviously he did a lot of crazy cool stuff while he was there. And basically, the Doctor basically explains to her that that he kind of could do all those cool things that he did, basically. Um, but also that killing him is not really going to happen, and basically you could just leave him there to save people, because she didn't believe that the sun thing was actually real, that it was actually a weapon or anything. And the doctor basically is like, yes, it is. This is why I'm here. And she's like, okay, I understand. But then the dude runs in, and after he's managed to escape, he kills the chick, and doctor's like, why? Seriously, why? Every time. And then he basically explains that the dude explains that that basically he thinks that she was actually with the government thing, that he's trying to explain that to the doctor that this whole thing is an illusion, and they're basically just like a prisoner of his own making, all that sort of stuff. Tries to show that what's happening is actually an illusion by faking some readings that the sun's giving off, whilst he's turned off all the power. Doesn't quite turn out as well as he thinks, because the doctor actually remembers the event that he's simulating, which is, he's the doctor. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work out too well.
Can remember some random event, but not Charlie. That's okay.
Yeah. Exactly. But in the midst of this, the previous assistant that he had shows up in his TARDIS, kills the Mercurials, and tries to explain to the doctor that she's like, oh, I killed them. And the doctor's like, so you're lying to me. Cool. Because I would never have programmed you to kill anybody, so don't even go there with that. And it works out. The other robot that he's got uses that same weapon against the old previous robot, Fraser, and saves the day, basically. The doctor, now fully equipped with his TARDIS, which is a vessel from some solar engineers, he's able to put the sun right and leave. But just before he leaves, he gets a distress call from the one, the only Lucy Miller.
Lucy Bleeding Miller.
Yeah. So there you go. That is the...
Nice. Yeah, this one...
Yeah.
What's interesting is it's another 8th Doctor adventure like the Four Doctors was. But there's like a robot imitating Lucy, but still manages to feel like he doesn't have a companion.
Yeah.
I don't know how... Big Finish, I don't know how you do some of this stuff. But can you teach me, please? Because it's really cool.
It is really good.
Any thoughts on the story before we move on to the Shrine of Sorrows?
Not really. I mean, I like the idea that the Doctor, the only way to imprison the Doctor is to put him in a place where he chooses to be, basically the prison of his own making. Yeah. Which is effectively what they did. They basically said, if you don't stay here at all times doing the stuff, then you're going to let people die. And the Doctor's obviously would not let that happen, so he does. But it's interesting that they managed to separate him from his TARDIS, because it's basically it's just he just waited long enough for him to get back to his TARDIS so that he could fix it proper. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously that problem as well. But the idea of turning a sun into a weapon is definitely a possibility, because it's a big ball of fusion, basically.
Yeah,
it's a
and
huge
if you turn a supernova
source
next to like planets with life, I can't imagine that being too much of a good thing.
Yeah, you would probably you would destroy that system, basically. But probably more. The thing is that realistically, turning the sun into a weapon is probably not nearly as effectual as just harvesting it for power for a weapon. Like, probably a better idea.
Like Starkiller Base.
It's a big. Yeah, it's effective. It's a big fusion reactor. Well, I mean, Starkiller. Okay, we won't go into ruining Star Wars just yet, but yeah. Basically, the idea is it's got a whole lot of hydrogen, and it is a big fusion reactor, and fusion is a very good source of power. So just setting up a way of getting that power in some way would have been a way better method of a weapon than just shooting star things at it. Especially considering you could power lasers, which would travel actually at the speed of light, compared to solar ejection, which travels less than the speed of light. So not nearly as effectual. But yeah, basically, they had to give a good reason for the Doctor to stay around, so it makes sense. in that sense. But if you're going to be a big, powerful, interstellar evil bad guy, that's probably not your best bet.
On the subject of the evil bad guys, I'm glad we never met them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
they're just sort of like a presence in the background.
Yeah, them sort of being faceless, I don't think it made it cheesy. I think what it did is it has allowed it to be a confined space story, and this for me felt a bit like what Oxygen should have been, which was good.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I mean, the whole you gotta pay for oxygen. How do they do their job if they're dead, guys? They just run there by me. I don't know if you know this, but
exactly.
Corpses, they when they decompose, that actually depletes oxygen too. So you didn't think that one through, did you guys? Didn't really think that one through. That was a dumb episode. This one isn't, guys. You can pick this one up for... Actually, at the moment, you can pick this one up for 99 cents.
Nice.
There is that. They're running a Big Finish sale at the moment. It's 99p is the name of the sale, and the password to get into the sale is red balloons. The password was given out to email newsletter subscribers, and I absolutely love that. It's 99p, and the password is red balloons. 99 Duff Luftballon. Well done, guys. 99 Duff Luftballon. The Four Doctors, unfortunately, is a subscriber only special, and I may or may not have bought a 12 stories subscriber pack just to get the story, because I've never actually been a subscriber. If I were earning that mad cash, I would become a subscriber in milliseconds, but that isn't my life at the moment. Not to say that I would say Big Finish is expensive, but I just think I found it's cheaper to buy it when you can afford it than it is to be a subscriber to the service. But outside of that, Big Finish is fantastic, and we're going to move into our last story. I'm also going to turn off my alarm there. Sorry, guys.
If you've got the money, basically, if you can afford it, it is definitely worth it. Basically.
Yeah. And there's cheap stories. Again, there's the 99 cents, 99p stories. What's good about 99p is that makes it 99 cents in New Zealand and America. It makes it 99 of the equivalent in any currency. So a Big Finish are actually selling at a loss here because they're actually making less than the British pound. So I think definitely lap this up if you can, guys. I'll put this as this week's pinned comment, the 99p sale, because wow, I may or may not have bought a whole bunch of crap through it. Just why not? Okay, guys, so with that, we're going to jump into our last story. This story is our second to last short trip we'll be doing on the podcast. I'm going to miss the short trip range, but I'm really looking forward to what we've got in store for the future of Big Finish. Of Big Finish. Of Whoscussion. Hashtag we're the official Big Finish podcast now. They've got a really good podcast, by the way. I suggest it. But so Shrine of Sorrows follows the formula that Harry Skelly and I do enjoy for the short trips. It's somebody else's story. Yeah. This one is about a young girl called Nut, and she's traveling with two young fellas from her tribe, one called Gib and the other called Shu. And it's her journey through this really messed up forest, and she has this dream where they make camp one night as they're moving towards the Shrine of Sorrows, which is a rite of passage into adulthood for the peoples of her tribe. For only a select few, though, not everybody. Later on in the story, something happens that makes me think maybe it's the most intelligent of them that go out on this adventure. And she has this dream of this white woman, and she is absolutely terrified, but in the dream, which she thinks may have actually been real and not a dream at all, she's reaching out and almost lovingly going towards this creature. So there's there's two psyches that are fighting each other here, and the description they give, I just can't do it justice. Stephen Critchlow, he's so good at the short trips. Yes. And he's done the last 10, I think. He's so good at the short trips, man. He's fantastic. And just the way he describes her inner conflict, it's not only powerful, but I think horrific. to be honest. Especially the description of her silent screams, but her mouth doesn't open. Like, she's screaming, but she's not, in a way that's just sort of, it screwed with my mind a little bit. I re-listened to the story not because I felt I missed anything, just because I wanted to go through it again. It's a hell of a ride. After this dream sequence, the Ace and the Seventh Doctor turn up. And they're like, yes. And it's like, Professor. And Nut says something in her internal monologue. She says that she couldn't understand why Ace wouldn't call him the Doctor. Yeah. Since that's his real name. And so, like, Nut's just this whole time. It's mentioned a couple of times, actually. She's just like, his name's the Doctor. It's so great. Because even Seven's like, my name is the Doctor, not Professor Ace. And she's like, I'm going to call you whatever I want because I'm Ace and I'm independent and awesome. And it's like, fair enough, let's go kill gods. And they go out together, and Nut sees this white wolf. And it's like everybody else can't see it, but they can.
Well, everybody with the amulet can.
Yeah.
Ace and the Doctor can't.
Ace and the Doctor can't. So it's interesting, that dynamic. And the boys, Geb and Shu, become afraid of Nut because of her ability to not only approach this wolf, but to do it fearlessly. I feel like maybe they might feel even emasculated by her. But they seem to no longer be on good terms with her. And she makes note of that in her internal monologue. She finds that she becomes close with Ace. And Ace really hates this forest. And she's like, can we just go? And he's like, no, I want to get to the bottom of this because I'm the Seventh Doctor. And let's be honest, Ace, I'm scarier than everything in here. And I'm like, that's absolutely true.
That's correct.
That is accurate. And so, as they go through, they find that some of the trees are starting to look like people. And then they are people. And there's this one tree just outside of the shrine that Nut sort of feels this connection to, and she realizes it's the face of her older sister. And that sort of jars her quite a bit, and I can definitely see why. And this reminds me of anybody who's read the Divine Comedy, the trilogy of works by Dante Alighieri. You'll know of the scene where Dante sees a tree that looks like a man, and he snaps its finger off, and he's like, this is a man. Also, it's unintentionally one of the funniest scenes I've ever read. I know this sounds really sick, but if you read it, you'll see why. It's so funny. But in this isn't played for laughs at all. This is absolutely harrowing.
It very much resembles the Suicide Forest.
Yeah. It does resemble the Suicide Forest indeed. So, this entity walks out of the shrine, and it's the woman in white, which always cracks me up, because then, again, this goes back to my fan fiction. I know I've mentioned this too many times here, but I had a woman in white that was a character, and then I had this like MacGuffin in the 3rd season where the woman in white wasn't actually the woman in white from season 1. It could have been handled a bit better. But anyway, and this story is handled magnificently, and as the woman gets closer, Nut realizes it's her mum, and is like, oh.
Well, it's not her mum, it's the...
Yeah, yes. It's the
village mum.
Yeah, like the whatever the heck lives in this shrine basically has taken on this look that is reminiscent of her mother, and the Doctor's like, Nut, you need to basically be our shield, and he does some like Time Lord telepathy stuff, and basically that amplifies Nut's ability, like natural abilities, and they're able to suppress this creature in the shrine. And the Doctor is worse for wears after this, which is interesting to see, like, Seven disheveled, like the most brutal of the Doctors, to have like actually in a point of vulnerability. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if they've done this out in other stories in Big Finish, because we haven't done the monthly range yet, but I love that idea that like even Seven could be felled, and not with Chinese gang member bullets. Damn you, American movie! So the most like brutal Doctor's taken out by gunfire. It kind of works actually.
By aspirin later on.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. I am not like you. So so they push this entity back into the shrine, and the Doctor's like, Ace, Nitro 9 that you shouldn't be carrying, but I know you totally are. And Ace Nitro 9's the shrine. And the Doctor's like, cool.
So great. So great.
Yeah. He's like, oh, that's great. Well, we just killed another god.
The candid way that she explains it is fantastic. Yeah. It's just like, just helped her put the Nitro 9 around the shrine, and then we blew it up.
So we just blew it up. It's so fantastic. So they blow up the shrine, and basically the Doctor has killed another god. And he's like, cool, I'm pretty happy about that. Let's go. And like Nut's like, oh, what do we tell the elders? Guys? Oh, they Batman to me, didn't they? And so she goes back, and everybody's like, why aren't two of you dead? Because that's meant to be the ritual, is only the strong survives this process. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, we totally killed the god. And they're like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. All right. And so she becomes pretty much the next the next leader, basically. And the story ends with her as being the village elder. And it was great, as far as I'm concerned. Harry, it's kind of your thoughts on the Shrine of Sorrows.
Yeah, it was really good. I like the idea that that there's like a bunch of short trips where the Seventh Doctor just shows up and kills some gods, like just super entity level stuff. It's pretty great. Yeah, that's basically my entire take on the story. Really, is that this is basically it? Like, I really hope that there is just a whole lot of stories like that, where just Seventh Doctor just comes out of nowhere and just kills some gods, like, and that's basically why there's none left in the universe. Like,
yeah, because I really think that would help with how classic New Who seems to have no gods at all.
Exactly.
It would also explain for me how they're not involved in the war. However, 8 and Charlie took on the Toymaker, so you got some explaining to do, Seven.
I don't imagine that the Guardians were taken out though.
Yeah,
they had Time Lord stuff, so they would. They're a little bit more powerful as well. Like, they're not as easy to take out. Like, he could have beaten them, but not necessarily killed them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I love how, like, the Toymaker's like, hey, you totally killed me that one time. And the Doctor's like, then how are you still alive? Hard jokes. I can't die. I'm a Guardian.
I'm a Guardian. I can't die.
But Black...
I am eternal.
I am eternal. But then there's the Black Guardian, and when he loses, he just wipes out half a god species, because why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's a race of gods, dead half of them. I'm a Guardian. I'm above the gods.
Yeah.
The gods answer to me, Black Guardian Incorporated. He should so have his own show. Hey guys, hey Black Guardian. Tonight we're gonna wipe out the people of Mars. There's like crowd just applauding. Woo, yeah! I still want him to have his own cooking show now. Alright, so yeah, I agree. The Shrine of Sorrows is a great listen. I know we went over to most of it, but it's just nothing can beat Stephen Critchlow's delivery. Just listen to it.
It's amazing. It is immaculate. He's fantastic at it.
I absolutely love him. Alright guys, well, we'll catch you next week. You have a good one.